hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is probably the most commonly recalled phrase from the preamble of the Declaration of Independence, and those engaged in rigorous study of American democracy, even in our best high schools, are caused to reflect upon why Thomas Jefferson chose to depart from the principles of John Locke, who we often presume had proposed that all men were entitled to life, liberty, and property, as you may recall. And arguably the greatest of these in the eyes of the law and the guardians of liberty is that of property. Property, what's mine is mine, property, finders, keepers, and property, possession is 9/10 of the law, property, properly understood. And in the context of the national abortion debate, especially breaching new frontiers in infanticide in New York and Virginia, as well as carving out exemptions for African American babies from a heartbeat bill in Ohio upon the request of an African American woman leader, this legally significant term of rights in property is of dispositive importance. The question before the courts is neither moral nor religious or even philosophical or scientific, asking where conception begins, but rather, as presently framed before the courts, where, in a stream of intrastate and interstate commerce, is a quantum of property transformed with legal effect into a right to life. It is of significance in this controversial national debate, as framed, that conservatives and their faith coalition have championed the right to life, a recognized right in our founding documents, specifically the Declaration of Independence, but giving rise to various criminal statutes at both the state and federal level to punish transgressors, sometimes in reciprocity exchange of life for life. And guided by providence, prudence, or just dumb luck, given a limited range of maneuver alternatives in constitutional jurisprudence battles in court, both tactically and strategically, the conservative coalition placed itself on the higher ground, which always accrues an advantage to the possessory interest. However, progressives championing the idea of a speculative settled law on shaky ground, despite their claims of a living document in the Constitution, have framed their arguments as a woman's choice, finding no legal foundation contemplated by the founders, nor in any progeny interpretation of those words since. Yet and still, doggedly determined in a lost cause struggle stating as a right, with bullhorns blaring woman's choice and settled law as if sound and fury ruled the day, somehow they forget, in their bleeding hearts, even the movie portrayal of the events surrounding the case of the Amistad, where the legal question decided in a courtroom drama was a rebellious African American property held in bondage in a middle passage journey that begged to a jurist, "Give me free. Give me free." With bullhorns blaring woman's choice and settled law, thundering, louder than before, somehow they forget in their bleeding hearts a right in property named Dred Scott in a divided nation, half slave and half free. And surviving beyond a civil war that pitted brother against brother in 1948, Paul V. Cobb in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the source of all of the liberties articulated in the Bill of Rights that were ratified with the Constitution of the United States upon its forming. That state Supreme Court, regarding property, was mindful not to impugn nor infringe against this time-honored maxim that a man's home is his castle, nor any of its cherished implications. What's mine is mine, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And in that case, for the first time in the Commonwealth, a criminal code passed during the rise of Jim Crow and lynchings throughout the South in response to an in-show struggle for civil rights. That court tested in just its 15th year a statute making the tortious act of trespass a criminal offense. Trespass, the entry of one person onto the property of another person, and remaining after having been told to vacate the premises by one person, with authority to issue that order to another person, being either the owner or his authorized agent in personam. It is that curious tortious allegation against another person that created during the struggle for power among the King's Bench, the Court of the Chancery, and the Court of the Common Pleas, pitting the crown, the nobles, and the church against one another, the Bill of Middlesex, one of the first legal fictions in jurisprudence, where a trespass was so de minimis it could be alleged with impunity simply to assert the dominion of the crown and withdrawn to establish jurisdiction over other claims and establish sovereign rule. Accordingly, if a termed fetus is not a life, by process of elimination, there were only three remaining alternatives of legal import in our constitutional law: liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. And the liberties we grant legal causes of action are articulated in the Bill of Rights and the amendments, where none is found to capture what the progressive magazine Salon during the controversial 2016 election described as the goal for Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger: a woman's entitlement to sexual pleasure without consequences. Even if there are some churches today that may preposterously endorse this proposition as morality. Failing liberty, apparently the progressive Huffington Post, through the incarnate form of Daniel Brooke in 2007, anticipated in the event that it might occur to the more rebellious members of the uneducated deplorable mass who elected a not my president, their ministry of truth to straighten them out, and deployed as an authoritative piece of scholarship, albeit in the daily press, that sought to indoctrinate or educate all as to how the term pursuit of happiness was chosen over that of property by Thomas Jefferson, drawing tension with the political philosopher John Locke. But as the late doctor of philosophy Carol V. Hamilton of Berkeley, California wrote in the George Washington University History News Network in 2013, in rebuttal to Brooke's contentions, the 18th century British political philosopher John Locke wrote that governments are instituted to secure people's rights to life, liberty, and property. And in 1776, Thomas Jefferson begged to differ when he penned the Declaration of Independence, ratified on the 4th of July. He edited out Locke's right to property and substituted his own more broad-minded, distinctly American concept, the right to the pursuit of happiness. But Dr. Hamilton retorted soundly, familiar as all this sounds, Brooke is wrong on 3 points. John Locke lived from 1634 to 1704, making him a man of the 17th century, not the 18th. Jefferson did not substitute his own phrase, nor is that concept distinctly American. It is an import, and Jefferson borrowed it. And in a brilliant demonstration of thorough scholarship, reviewing the relevant literature, not superfluously nor gratuitously, but to simply demonstrate both for aspiring students and doubting Thomases alike what right looks like, that research had been done. Dr. Hamilton concluded that Jefferson had not departed far from Locke, but rather, more than likely, found the source of his pursuit of happiness buried deep within a thick tome of his writings, in which that political philosopher concluded, after about a paragraph in exposition on the same quote, and therefore, till we are as much informed upon this inquiry as the weight of the matter and the nature of the case demands, we are by necessity of preferring and pursuing true happiness as our greatest good, obliged to suspend the satisfaction of our desires in particular cases, and most distinctly in abstention and restraint. I cannot fathom where within that construction, even most liberally construed, a woman's entitlement for sexual pleasures might fall therein. But like Margaret Sanger opined of herself in her famous letter to Dr. C.J. Gamble in December 1939, discussing the Negro Project in the South, it was her dearest endeavor and passion in selling Planned Parenthood, a term of her invention, to sell a product. Only few know their minds on the left of this political continuum. Accordingly, the only constitutionally acceptable hole in which to place the peg of a woman's choice regarding a termed fetus is that of property. And a property in a stream of commerce, intrastate or interstate, within a billion-dollar industry, offering women's health care with byproducts in medical research. A fetus, therefore, is a property interest of a woman with which to determine whatever she wishes to do, wherever she wishes to do it, and whenever she wants, until some fixed point in temporal relationship when that property interest is spiritually and physically transfigured with legal significance into a life, breathing breath, almost like a story of creation as told in the book of Genesis, if that is what secularists and humanistic progressives mean to posit. Certainly there is no other known commodity in a stream of commerce with these simply wondrous and miraculous qualities. Nonetheless, is it not inconsonant with a liberation theology that every day, after indentured servitude slaving in search of a living wage, independent progressive women depart boss towns, bound for exotic ports of call, to exercise an entitlement to be a nasty woman without consequence, birthing transactional cargo of potential in due consideration in a stream of commerce to be unloaded based only upon the choice of a mistress owner to accrue a return not in an agrarian economy of chattel labor, but an advanced medical and scientific economy that might produce, under sterile conditions, a science project in opportunity cost of a potential actual scientist who might save the world. Is it not abject, dare say objectionably unconscionable and egregious, that this choice to be a slave master of her fate is granted 75% of the time, according to the statistics of the Guttmacher Institute, to the nation's poor? In a developed nation, according to the United Nations, with the largest population of Franc-Fanons wretched of the earth, while progressives establish sanctuary cities and open borders to welcome more immigrants of no great wealth to become dreamers that await this fate deplorable. As a Christian and as a conservative who reveres traditional family values and the duty of the faithful, not big government, to care for the poor, I am in great agreement, especially on this divisive issue, with the founder, John Adams, who stated our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. And so it follows that I believe that as a people and a nation, we should always choose, even given a million choices, that which is right, so that that nation, of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. As one Holocaust survivor stated, if you save a life, you save the world. And you can't save the world if you are never born. In 2016, President Donald Trump, who they wish to impeach for his alleged hate, addressed the March for Life just before a 500,000 women from across the nation, proud to be nasty women, wearing age-inappropriate hats and holding handcrafted signs that they left littering the streets, disregarding even the environment they hope to protect, to call for the impeachment of a not my president. And he said boldly, defiantly, and unequivocally, as the most pro-life president since Ronald Reagan, to a pro-life generation gathering, they must choose life. Let's make America great again.